How you going? Welcome to the Expanse Season 1 Episode 5 Back to the Butcher review. So this episode is a bit confusing because it's one of those episodes where they skip back and forth and change from venue to venue, so bear with me. So the episode begins with Havelock recovering in a hospital, and Miller goes to visit him, and Miller notices that he has his language teacher there, which doesn't impress him very much because he's like, you shouldn't trust these people, you're going to get yourself killed. And then we head to the Tashi where Lopez and Holden and Burton and Kamal and Nagata are drifting in space. Lopez is now dead. He's succumbed to his wounds, and Burton has got a messed up shin. Looks like he's got a gunshot wound, possibly even a fractured shin bone. So Burton's wanting someone to do something with the medical supplies because he's in such pain, and they're like, well, we don't know what we're doing. And he replied to that with, well, Shed didn't know what he was doing either. And then they snap his leg back into place. So Kamal's shut everything off so that no one could track them, but then Burton notices that somehow someone has sent them a message, so someone knows that they're out there. And then we travel to a new location, which is Anderson Station, which is a refinery in the belt. This seems to be in the past, and the occupants of the station are on strike for some reason. And then we go back to the Tashi again, and the message that was received was sent by Fred Johnson at Tycho Station. He reckons he can help, but they don't trust him because they say that he's OPA. So then they discuss it, and Kamal wants to go to Mars, and Burton wants to go to Ceres, and then Holden says, like, let's go to Tycho and see what this guy wants with us. But Nagata doesn't trust Johnson for some reason, to which Kamal says, well, we've got to go somewhere, and they put it to a vote, and Kamal and Holden decide they want to go to Tycho, and Nagata and Burton decide that they just want to sit and drift for a bit. So then it's revealed that the guy that tried to kill Havelock was named Philat Kothari, and he releases the video of him driving the spike through Havelock's chest onto social media. And then we zip over to see Miller in Julie Mao's apartment, and he's looking at the flight paths of a ship called the Anubis for some reason. I don't know why he's looking at this ship, but it seems to have crossed paths with the Scopuli before the Scopuli was destroyed. And then we zip over to Star Helix offices where they're reviewing the footage of Philat Kothari killing or attempting to kill Havelock. And they're like, well, this guy's a scumbag, but he's not OPA, so we don't have to tread on eggshells. So if this guy happens to have an accident occur to him or falls out of an airlock or something, well, so be it. So they kind of want him dead. So we go back to Julie Mao's apartment, and Miller is meeting with Muss, and she's talking to him about the Anubis. And it turns out that the Anubis was listed in the data chip that was in that data broker's leg. So Miller works out that the Scopuli looked like it was meeting with the Anubis at some point on its journey. The Anubis was heading from Phoebe to Eros, and Phoebe's the Martian research facility, I believe. I don't know what Eros is. It's a moon or another asteroid, perhaps. And this all took place before the Kant and the Donnager blew up. So Miller thinks that this might be sort of the catalyst for the ships blowing up. And then we go back to Anderson Station, where they're trying to negotiate with the UN. And the UN says that they don't negotiate with terrorists. So they think that they're terrorists instead of striking workers. And then the space station gets hit by something, and someone yells out that they've taken out the generators. So they're trying to disable their power systems. And then back on the Tashi, and Lopez is getting vacuum sealed for maximum freshness. And then it's revealed that Nagata doesn't trust this Fred Johnson guy. So I don't know whether she's OPA herself and has dealt with him. I mean, she says that she knows people like Fred Johnson. So does that mean other OPA, or does that just mean people who have a cause that gets people killed? And then we're back to this coffee thing where Holden finds a coffee maker and he's like, yeah, boy. Which takes me back to a previous scene where Muss and Miller were also drinking coffee. I don't know why it's such a big deal. Maybe it's just because they're in space and fruit and vegetables and coffee, I guess, is a rarity. So then we're back on series and Miller is looking through footage of Julie Mao manhandling that guy on the docks from the previous episodes, and he's decided that he's going to follow up on that guy. So he asks the computer to identify the guy, and his name is Neville Bosch, and that's good. So then Anderson Dawes pulls up a seat next to Miller, and he says that the guy who tried to kill Havelock isn't a member of the OPA, and he's not associated with them. And he says just because he's got tattoos doesn't mean that he's a fully blown member of the OPA. But he does say that he knows where the guy is. But Dawes says that he's in an OPA safe house under the pretense of protection. So Dawes says that the OPA wants the Belters to have independence and a place of their own, whereas he says that the Earthers want to have the Earth as well as the stars. And then we go back to Anderson Station again. And they're on the radio to UN Command, and they're trying to say that they surrender, but UN Command is not responding at all. And then we go back to the Tashi, where Kamal and Burton are watching a news feed. Holden's now famous for being part of the Remember the Can't movement. So now when they go to Tycho Station, Holden won't be able to hide his identity from Johnson. So then Miller goes and interrogates Bosch, who's the guy that Julie Mao roughed up on the docks. And it turns out that he was sleeping with her, and he tried to keep her away from Dawes. He didn't want her to have anything to do with him. But then she insisted that she hook him up with a data broker, who was the dead one that they got the data vault out of his shin. So then he says that the data broker that he hooked her up with was from Tech Noir, which is a good name for a bar, if the Terminator movies have told me anything. So then we go back to Anderson Station for one last time, where they're trying to pull the same trick that Holden did. They thought if they could get a message out, then nothing bad could happen to them. So they say that they just have concerns about the health of their children, who are getting hypoxic brain injury due to a lack of oxygen in the air. And then kablamo! So it turns out that Fred Johnson was a captain in the UN Navy, and he's apparently known as the Butcher of Bakersfield. Oh, wait, no, that's the Running Man. And so Johnson is known as the Butcher of Anderson Station. So then we go back to the Tashi, where they need to change the transponder code to avoid detection before they head to Tycho. So Kamal suggests the Screaming Firehawk or the Flying Alamo, but then Holden decides that he doesn't want to be identified as like a fighting ship or a warship. So then Holden suggests the Rocinante, which means workhorse in Spanish, I think it was. And then Miller heads into Tech Noir, which turns out to not be a bar, and is actually the home to the galaxy's largest collection of Christmas lights. So the guy who works in Tech Noir lets Miller into the back room with a bit of persuasion, and then Miller has a bit of a look around and sees what he can find, and he can find nothing. But then he's just about to give up, and he looks over and he sees a dissected robo-hamster. And he's like, that's a good spot to hide a data vault. And then we go back to the Tashi, and everyone's getting a bit nervous about what's going to happen when they get to Tycho. And some of them start drinking, and some of them start curling up into a ball. And then the final scene is Miller going to Julie Mao's apartment and pulling apart her robo-hamster and finding that there is a data vault in it. So he stashes it inside of his hat. And then just as he's leaving, he gets a bag put over his head, and someone sticks 240 volts into his kidney, and he is being kidnapped. The end. So I didn't really think this episode was as exciting or interesting as the previous one. I thought that there was too much jumping around. It was like 20 seconds in this location and then 30 seconds in this location, and then yeah, it was just a bit disjointed for my liking. It gave some important information like what Julie Mao was up to and who Anderson Dawes is and who Fred Johnson is. There's this weird like cutting back to Anderson Station for 20 seconds, giving us a little snippet of who these people are and why we should care about them. And then they just get killed anyway. And it's like, but who? What? I feel like it's setting up Fred Johnson to be like the bad guy, but then it's like, oh, well, that's just a rumor. Like it's a red herring or something. So I'm going to give this episode a 6. I wasn't terribly impressed with it. It was okay. Hopefully the next one's better. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.